Hello and welcome to Raising the Barr, the go-to podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs looking to elevate their marketing game. Today, we have got an absolutely fantastic guest for you. He had a storied career in the sales and financial services industries across the world before launching Dubai's most listened to podcast and transitioning into a media career. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Spencer Lodge.
Drum roll.
Drum roll.
Sounds fancy. I'll take that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It's great to have you on the show. A lot of pressure with a top podcaster on. So let's hope we deliver. So, Spencer, before we jump into everything, let's start with your story. Tell us about the journey so far and what's brought you to this part of your life.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me on the show today, and it's good work that you're doing, so keep it up. So I'm just a regular kid. I got a 1 O-level. I'm no one special. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. But there was some things, if I go back to my childhood, that I think played a big part in who I became without me knowing it at the time. So my dad went bankrupt when I was 7 and my mum had nothing, and I watched my mum work 3 jobs to be able to put food on the table because her parents got divorced. And that, watching my mum, and I was very close to her as a kid, like being this real grafter and hard worker, I think had an impact on me. So when I got into work and started to get into sales when I was young, I realized it was all about hard work. And so I wasn't frightened of that because I'd watched, maybe 10 years worth of my mum working really hard. So I think that was a really important ingredient into me being successful. And then learning, it was important for me to learn how to make money because there was never money around when I was a kid. So I was always interested in how people make money. And when I was 14, it was picking up glasses in a bar, and that was a £5 a night. That was Friday and Saturday. On Saturday morning, it was selling birthday cards on a market stall. That was a £5. I had 2 paper rounds, one for the mornings and then an evening one on a Wednesday night. I washed cars on Saturday afternoons at people's houses, and I mowed lawns on Sundays. And washing a car was a £5 too, and cutting lawns was a £5, and I was able to wash 2 or 3 cars. So I used to have like this money coming in when I was a teenager of about 45 quid a week. I thought I was loaded. I was like the Don. And I think that there was no money for me unless I went out and got it. And when I got this money, I was able to buy the Air Jordan trainers. I was able to buy the Lacoste T-shirt or whatever it might, the Sergio Tacchini or whatever. And so I got a flavour for the fact that if you work hard, you could create some wealth. Again, all contextual, because if you look at it now, it's ridiculous. But at the time, it meant something because my mates weren't doing that. They might have a paper round, they might do some bits and pieces, but I was like quite committed to working. But I was also quite lonely as a child as well. So my sister Louise, she was born with Asperger's, and so she had special needs as learning. So I was kind of like this kid that was kicking around. And so I didn't make friends so easily. And so it was like, well, I might as well go to work because, I can do that. Someone came to me and said, put some leaflets under a windscreen wiper of the cars outside Asda. I'd be like, okay, fine, I'll do it. How much are you paying me? £3, fine, done. And so I was always willing to do that kind of stuff. And so when I went to work, my job was learning how to knock on doors. It was 100 door knocks every morning and 100 cold calls every afternoon. And a lot of people that I started with at that time in this sales company were kind of uncomfortable with that and frightened by it and frightened of rejection or fearful of people being rude to them. But to me, it was like, is that really what's going on here? And I remember my boss, when I started working, the first day of my job, he said to me, go and get me 100 no's. I was like, what's that? He said, go and get me 100 people to say no to you. And so I got these 100 no's, and I went back at the end of the day, and he gave me this high five. He's like, great job, see you tomorrow. And I went home. I remember going home talking to my mum about it that night. And she's like, well, just be patient. I'm sure it'll come out in the wash. And day 2 was go and get 100 no's. But then day 3 was, can you get me 99 no's today and 1 yes? And I was like, well, there were some people that would have said yes before. I had my script and I had my kind of like my objection list, all these papers on this desk in front of me. But he was teaching me a valuable lesson. He was like, you're not going to get yeses unless you get no's first. And he was teaching me you needed a lot of no's to get a yes. Well, when you learn that when you're young, You then learn to become bulletproof because you now know you're not going to get a yes with the first call. You might need to make 100 calls to get a yes. So accept you have to go through the no's to find the yes. 100%. Rather than a lot of people, they send out a proposal and someone says no, they're devastated, or they pick someone up and call them and they get no and F off and B off or whatever it may be in bad language. Yeah. And they're like, oh, and I can't, and they're scared of the phone. And I used to watch people being scared of the phone. And I was like, it's not going to bite you.
I mean, I've got so much respect for people that can do that. When we look at industries like recruitment or even the real estate, these guys who are ringing and getting rejected all day long, I think it takes a real strength of character to do that on a daily basis.
I just think that I've never had a salary.
In your entire life?
I've never. And so I see these people that have salaries and I'm like, what a prison. Yeah. You pay somebody 2,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it may be, dollars, pounds, dirhams, doesn't matter, per month. Their whole life has to be planned around that amount of money. How do you dream?
I think it's for people that aren't looking for the dream, isn't it? It's for people that are looking for stability.
Bullshit. Everyone dreams.
Does everyone dream?
Everyone dreams. Everyone dreams of something better. Everyone dreams of a nicer holiday, a nicer car, nicer clothes, nicer this, nicer that. Everyone dreams something to be more in some way.
So let's dig into the mentality then. If we perceive everyone to dream, why do the masses settle for that wage over the ability to earn more on commission?
Because they settle for a wage because wage means security in their mind. So, you have people listening right now going, well, if I get that money every month, okay, then at least I'm getting that money every month. I need it. I need that money every month. And I would be like, but you could get 3 times that money. I don't want to sit at a desk with another person and you and I get paid the same, but you're a lazy mofo and I'm an industrious, hard-working mofo. And you get paid the same, but I work late. I put more effort in. I did more work of whatever that work may be, but you're getting paid the same as me? Hell no. I want to be the guy that if I work twice as hard as you, then tough shit on you.
And coming from the background you came from, it would be very easy for you to have craved that security. And just, I'm going to go out, get a steady job, have that money coming in, so you don't have to worry about food on the table, etc. What part do you think it was that really inspired you to think, I want more for my life, I'm going to go out there, back myself and achieve?
Remember going into this sales office, I sold photocopiers in London, in the city. And I remember going into this sales office after passing the job interview, which was the sell me the pen interview, literally sell me the pen, I'll never forget it. And I walked into the sales office and there was this whiteboard on the wall and it had the names of these salespeople. And this guy was David Thornton, and he had £20,000. And I looked at it, I'm like, wow, has he earned £20,000 this year? I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. And my boss said to me, no, he's earned £20,000 this week. This is 1989. And I'm like, what? And bear in mind, my salary before I joined there, okay, well, say salary, this income I was making when I was working in this shop, I got money and commission. So I was getting about £7,500 a year all in. Yeah. And this money I was getting, so I'd get this expenses money plus commission. I used to sell ski boots and stuff like that in a dry ski slope. And I'd had 7.3 or something, and he'd earned 20 in a week. And I'm like, what's going on here? I couldn't get my head around it. It was just such a huge amount of money. And he wouldn't talk to me, this guy, because I was this grub, basically. But in that moment, I was like, okay, there's an opportunity here. And I remember my first commission check. It was £1,500. And I was just like, I kid you not. I was like, I have arrived. I am now the Don, I was just this person that was just like, holy macaroni. And my commission check after that, I think, was something in the region of, I don't know, 2,200, something like that. And it was like, okay. And bear in mind, I lived an hour's drive from the office. I would drive to the office in London every morning. Training was at 6:30. Yeah. So we'd have to get to the office for 6:30 to do training until 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, then we did our jobs. And so I was getting in really early. I was driving home from work really late because you didn't want to get stuck in the traffic. So I was working really long hours. But I was being institutionalized, just like someone in prison. I was being institutionalized into a way of thinking and being that wasn't something I consciously went, I'm institutional. It was just like, it was all this behavior rubbing off on me. These other salespeople that were making all these calls, these people that were making all this money, outside the front of the office were a lot of flash cars. And I'm like, everyone's driving a flash car and everyone's making lots of money. They've got nice suits. And I'm like, I'm just breathing all this stuff in. And by breathing it all in, and then you become competitive. You don't want to be the person at the bottom of the pile.
Competition is what drives us.
Absolutely. And I didn't have the opportunity to compete with education because I was thick. I was looking out the window all the time. So being in a competitive environment, feeling it was something I was able to do, made me really hungry.
Okay, perfect. So we've looked at the benefits and the positive traits that sales environment instilled in you at an early age that set you up. Do you think there were any negative habits or traits that environment put on you that you've had to unlearn in later life?
Look, if you want to be successful in business, you've got to learn how to sell.
Yeah.
You've got a digital marketing agency.
Correct.
Okay, so if you've got no clients, what have you got?
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I met a girl in a bar in the city. Her name was Sarah Newton, and she was the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. She's so hot. So hot. And I walked in, just like maybe you and I, me and a couple of mates, walked into the pub, Friday night, 5 o'clock, couple of bottles of beer. I've clocked her. And I'm like, she's the one. Like, she was so beautiful. 2.5 hours, 3 hours later, I've got the courage now. I can go and talk to her. I go and chat to her. I'm like, what do you do for a living? Where do you live? Blah, blah, blah. And she tells me about her job and her family and yada, yada. She goes, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a salesman. And she went, ugh, really? Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? I said, what were you expecting? She goes, I don't know, an investment banker, a stockbroker, I don't know, someone professional. And I was like, you work for an architectural firm, don't you? I said, have you got clients? She said, well, of course. I said, is there people in the company that get clients? She goes, yeah. I said, so if you didn't have any clients, who would pay your salary? And she just looked at me. And I'm like, salespeople are the backbone of every single company, because no sales means no company. Now, these people get up every day. A lot of them, they don't get any salaries. They've still got to put a roof over the people's head. They've still got to pay for their cars. They've got to pay for their kids. They go through the same stresses as anybody else with no guarantee of income.
100%.
And you want to look down your nose as a secretary at them?
And why, as you said there, sales is the backbone of business. As you rightly said, there is no business without it. So why do you think society on a whole does turn their nose down at salespeople?
I think society turns their nose up at people in certain countries.
Good
I don't
point.
think everywhere. I think if you went to America, what they do in America is they'll allow you to talk. They'll allow you to pitch and they'll give you a chance. In England, we are so obnoxious and arrogant, and we have such an idea that we're better than people, that we wouldn't give people a chance. So for every accountant, digital marketer, auditor, pilot, engineer, construction worker, quantity surveyor out there that might consume any of this content, remember something, all of your businesses, no one flies airplanes without passengers or cargo. All of that has to be sold.
The key message today is respect the sales team.
Surgeons. I had spinal surgery 10 years ago. Dan, my surgeon, brilliant guy, love him. Yeah, I said, why did you become a neurosurgeon? He said, well, I was studying medicine, and then I had to choose my designated thing to do. And I chose neurosurgery. And I'm like, yeah, but why? He said, I read a book about a neurosurgeon that was a multimillionaire. And I thought, that'd do for me. And I was like, so you do it to make money? He goes, yeah, I want to be rich. Yeah. And so when I look back at the operation and the cost and how long I was in hospital and the fee that he charged my insurance company, it was something like $150,000, of which me being on the operating table was $70,000. Well, that's a day's work. Very nice if you can get it. He's a salesman too.
100%. I mean, in the UK at the minute, the aesthetics industry and the plastic surgery industry, in terms of our industry, the digital marketing, they are two of the biggest growth markets because they are big, big industries and they all need to sell.
Need clients.
It's putting people on the table at the end of the day.
There's no point being a boob doctor unless you can put plastic silicone in boobs, and you've got to find the people to do that with, haven't you? You know,
there's one way of doing it. So when you walked in today, Spencer, you said to me, sales is me 10 years ago. You had a 3-decade career in the sales, very successful. You could have stayed in that forever. Who is Spencer Lodge today?
I think that being a salesperson is part of who you are. It's your makeup. It's your identity a lot of the time. And we kind of move up and we then have people that kind of do sales for us. But I still am selling myself every day. I learn 6 years ago now, about the world of podcasting. And I didn't want to get involved with it at first, and was pushed into it by a really good friend of mine called Raj Katecha. And we started this thing called the Spencer Lodge podcast, which was, first episode was me rambling for 15 minutes. And then the next episode, I remember a lady called Sarah Al-Madani that came to my house, local lady. She's on the Housewives of Dubai now, but she didn't want to be there. I didn't want her to come. It was kind of like really one of those weird experiences. We hit it off and became good friends. And I started to kind of enjoy this experience I was getting. But I didn't know at first what I was doing. I didn't know why I was doing it. I didn't know how it could benefit me. And I started off kind of interviewing people that were in the personal development space. So I was very lucky to get Tony Robbins to come on the show in the first 6 months, just by chance.
And how did you get Tony on the show?
It's funny, it's the stories. So we knew he was coming to town.
Yeah.
And so I asked the people that were bringing him to town if I could get him on the podcast, and they said no. And so I reached out to his manager in New York, and she said no. So I found his publicist, and she said no. And so I sent her some flowers, and I got nothing. I was like, So then I sent her some cupcakes, and she called me as soon as she got them. She goes, I don't like flowers, but I like cupcakes. And I was like, I need Tony on the show. What have I got to do? She goes, no chance. I'm like, come on, there's got to be something I can do. And so I sweet talked to her, and she said, look, make a video for me. And my friend Omar and I made this video. It's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness, Tony. That's what you've taught us. That's what we're doing now. This kind of mad thing. She said, give me that 1 minute video. I will give it to his cabin crew on his private jet. They will show it to him. If he likes it and he says yes, then fine. But that's as much as we can do. And luckily he liked it, and he said yes and agreed to come on the show. And
do you think that was the big point that first put the podcast on the map?
You could leverage it then. Yeah. So I could reach out to anybody then and say, Tony's just been on the show. Yeah. So anybody else in that space was like, oh, Tony's the Messiah. And so they would come on. So whether it was Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, all these types, for Ty Lopez, all these people were like, yeah, we'll come. So I was able to go down there. And then I got a bit bored with everyone's rags to riches story. It's just like the same old story. And so I started leaning into, I had a guy on the show called Nick Yaris, and he was on death row for 20 years for a crime he didn't commit. And I sat we did 2 episodes. The first episode, in that episode for 45 minutes, and I didn't say a word. And he told this really moving story. And I got to the end of it, and I walked out, and I remember calling my wife, and I'm like, that is the person I want to talk to. They're the stories I want to share. And all of a sudden I found this purpose around learning about people's really difficult, challenging environments and times, people that have been through stuff you couldn't imagine, and how they were able to come out the other side with hope and positivity, optimism and faith. And for me, it was like, the stuff that people had gone through, I'm like, you have every right to surrender to the world. You have every right to stick 2 fingers up and be angry to the world. But you didn't. You were able to, one guy lost his arms and his legs from septicemia, handsome guy from Oxford, and his mouth and his nose, all amputated. And it's like your whole world collapsed. But yet you're now telling me you're glad you don't have arms and legs because you weren't living before that happened. And these was really, really telling experiences for me. I'm like, if people can come and think that way, if their brain can tune into looking with gratitude and positivity and optimism, then what am I whinging about? And so these stories, as I told these stories, it became really powerful, really important to me. And I started to meet people that had been through these different experiences. And I then felt I needed to get involved in doing something because I couldn't share all these stories and not care myself. And so that's when I interviewed a guy who had a TV show. This is exactly what happened. So Leon Logothetis had a beautiful TV show on Netflix called The Kindness Diaries. It's a story about how he believes everybody's kind. So he went around the world on his motorbike. He could receive fuel, food and shelter, but no money from anyone. But when he experienced an extreme act of kindness, he repaid it with a life-changing gift. Okay. And it's really beautiful. Anyway, I interviewed him. At the end of the interview, just like this, I went, I'm a bit jealous of you. And he's like, why? I said, because you got a TV show and I don't. And I just threw it out there.
TV show.
It was just like that. And he just looked straight back at me. He said, well, why haven't you? And I went, blah, blah, blah. I had no words, yeah? He said, look, I'll give you an hour of my time every Saturday for the next 6 weeks. If you can give me goosebumps with an idea, I'll help you make a TV show. So the next week we got together on Zoom, we chatted, kind of brainstormed and stuff. The next week we got together, brainstormed a bit more. The next week it was like, this is what we want to do. We want to make a documentary about human trafficking. This is what we want to do. The fourth week, there was a director, a producer, a director of photography, all these other people on this Zoom. We're going to make your TV show. And this is how the whole documentary into human trafficking started. And so that was really then my journey into taking a podcast from these stories actually to something real where I can impact people and affect change. And so in the podcast, in the documentary, I share the journey of 3 people. But I also work with my skills, my knowledge, my connections, my ability to help those people make change and more impact in what they do. Yeah. And that's been the most important thing I've done in my life.
It's deep, that one. So the purpose for that podcast really just came off the people you're interviewing. It almost dictated itself in a journey that evolved into the purpose that it became.
Yeah. I mean, literally, the TV show, and the TV show's finished now. We have the premiere in Las Vegas during the Formula One in November. And we hope to make another 10 episodes. Now, it's taken a long time. It's like, it's not easy. You think it's easy, you know. We come in here and we film this. Some people go and edit it and we're like, ta-da, you know. But with a TV show, there's research that's required. You travel all over the world. You got timing. I mean, I won't give too much away of the show, but we met the president of Nepal. And we sat and had an audience with the president of a country while we were dealing with human trafficking. And it's like, what happened on that, you'll see it on the TV show, what happened on that TV show has never happened in the history of that country. And we were part of it. And I tell the story. I'm not the star of the show. I'm the one telling the story about what these people have been through and what they did to react to it.
Fantastic. And what is your why for podcasting now? Because obviously a lot of people doing it are effectively using a podcast as a platform to grow their business, to grow their personal brand. Some people are doing it for philanthropic reasons. What's your why behind it now?
You know what? I look at a lot of people with podcasts and I feel really sorry that they start and then they stop. Yeah. Because they've started for the wrong reasons. They didn't know why they were doing it. So I'll tell you what I think podcasts are good for. I think a podcast is one of the best business development tools that exists on the planet.
Agreed.
I can invite every prospect or everybody I would love to do business. So let's say you and I were business partners and we wrote a hit list of the 20 people we'd love to do business with. Okay? And we invite them on the podcast. We spend an hour or so with them. We get to know them. And every single one of those people, you can phone up. You can do the same with me in 2 weeks' time or whenever it comes out. You call me. Hey, Spence, it's out. Just want to say thank you so much. My audience really enjoyed it. By the way, I've got a couple of questions for you. Can I quickly buy you a coffee? What am I going to say?
Say 100%.
Of course. You have a coffee with me. At that coffee, you then say to me, I know what you do, but do you know what I do? And I'm like, I don't actually, Jamie. What is it you do? But this is what I do. I solve this problem for these types of people. People like you, I solve this problem for, and I help with these solutions. Well, am I going to listen? Hell yeah. Because you gave me the chance to talk for an hour. I'm now going to give you a chance. Is our relationship warmer? Yeah, because you know how many kids I've got. You know what I do for a living. You know where I've struggled in my life. You know where I've been painful. And I've been vulnerable in front of your eyes. We have a connection now. Yeah. So anybody that uses a podcast for business development, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so we've got one, business development.
The other thing is you have to look at Joe Rogan and you have to look at the latest one. I've forgotten the name of the girl. It's on the tip of my tongue. Joe Rogan signed a $100 million contract.
Yeah.
There was another $100 million contract signed yesterday.
It was the lady yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah.
$100 million. It's a 5-year contract, $20 million a year. People don't get this bit about podcasting. Now, there are some people out there that have done many more episodes than me. I've done 311 or 12 or whatever it is, many more than me. Ask most of them how they got on. Most of them will say, I didn't have a clue what I was doing for the first 200 or 300 episodes. Then it all came together. So I think there's almost a little bit of an apprenticeship we have to go through to understand how this all works for us, how we can utilize it within our business, but also, can it be a business? And I'm sure that lots of the top 10 podcasters out there, if they signed a deal for $10 million, not $100 million, they'd be over the moon.
Absolutely.
So I look at it as like you're building a media business, and so I have a why for the podcast. Yeah. And I also love getting to know people. I'm sure you enjoy it. I love sitting down, asking people questions, learning about their story, trying to find ways to inspire my audience with what these people do. And whether that's Ant Middleton or whether it's Maureen, the dinner lady, I actually don't care. I care about the stories that people tell, what they've been through, and how it turned them into the person they became.
Unbelievable. And you're exactly right. Obviously, I've filmed a lot less episodes than you. But on every single episode I've done, I've walked away with something that I didn't know before that I've learnt. So even if nobody watched that podcast, if it got me no new customers, no exposure, I've had personal growth out of that episode, which I think is something exciting every week in life, just for yourself. So you said there the benefits to people doing podcasts. You've obviously built a hugely successful one. People notoriously struggle with podcasts. I think the areas they find hard are the consistency, the discipline, and the routine of it. A key area that I see businesses really struggling with, or individuals when they start podcast, is getting the guests. And I think it's a great part of your sales journey there. You've got the balls to ring up Tony Robbins, to keep hassling him. Other people ask people once, don't get a response, give up. How's that journey of getting the guests on the show been for you?
Go back to my early lessons, 100 no's or 99 no's and 1 yes. So if I take that principle, to get one guest, I need to reach out to 100. Yeah. And I'm going to get 99 say no to me. Okay?
And has that happened before?
I don't care. I don't care if that's what it takes, because I come from a world where that's normal. Most people, they ask 2 people to come on the podcast and they say no. And they're like, well, I've got no one. What am I going to do? Oh, they'll never come on. They start saying this out loud to their friends. They'll never come on, or they would never be interested. And it's like, I think you have to position. So one way I position guest contact is your story really inspires me. I would love you to come and inspire my audience. And what typically happens when you reach out to people like that, along with some other bits and pieces, what happens is they go, oh, well, maybe I can do a bit of inspiring. And so it leans into their ego a little bit. But also we'll create valuable content that you can use on your social platforms, or you can use with your friends and family. The job is to tell your story, and it's a good one, and we want people to hear it. Rather than, can you come on my podcast, please, okay, so I can talk to you about blah, 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 blah. No one's got time to run around satisfying your needs. No. So give people a reason to want to be on your podcast. And, I have people reach out to me, and I'm like, how many episodes you done? I've done 4. Can you come? Have you released the 4 episodes? No, not yet. And I'm like, okay, so you've not released any episodes, and you're reaching out to me. What's in it for me? Yeah. Now, had they said, we've got 4 episodes, you're the podcast person, experienced person, we're inexperienced. The truth is, we don't know what we're doing, and we want to chew your ear off, okay? And we'd love you to teach us how to do it properly. You might get me to go.
Yeah.
You've got to keep thinking, or you reach out, Spencer, we watch you with those kids from Bangladesh. It really moves us. Okay, we can't believe what a decent human being you are. We'd love to meet the girls. Would you please come on the podcast? You got me. You got me.
Unbelievable. It's so interesting, isn't it? We've moved from business, we've moved from podcasts, but effectively, that sales is still coming through. It's just learning a sales technique that resonates with people, because I'm sat here now and I'm guilty of the things you've said. When you explain how you go about getting guests, that's 100 times better than the approach I've used. And it's that sales experience of just positioning the offer in a way that people will buy into.
Again, everyone fears someone saying no.
Yeah.
It's like someone saying no. So what? No. So what? So what if they say no?
Yeah.
It's no loss. If you're going to try and attack 5 people to come on your show and you get 5 no's, you're daft. You need to attack 500 people.
100%. So we've looked there at getting the guests on the show. For people out there who've either got a podcast they're just beginning or a super established podcast, what do you think are the core elements of a successful, long-term, continued growth podcast?
I think what most people need to do is to have a niche.
Yeah.
I think they really do. And a lot of the time people don't, but I think you need to have a niche, and I think you need to be prepared to understand that it's going to take a while with your niche for it to work. Because I think what happens is you have you have this injection of positivity, don't you? You start off, I'm a podcaster, okay, and then it kind of goes a little bit flat because you've had your initial kind of like excited about it. It goes a bit flat, okay. It's that second climb that becomes the valuable climb. So I think people need to be, first of all, industry or niche focused. Secondly, they need to decide what their process is going to be. Are they going to have a format of interviewing one or two people at the same time, or is it just going to be them? Are there going to be two people hosting a podcast? Getting that right and being very clear on it. A lot of people worry about brand. I don't give a shit about that. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's your mugshot and my mugshot going the Spencer Lodge podcast or Jamie Barr. To me, that's not. It's the content that's valuable, and so I think it's really important, niche. And then once you've done that, don't spend a load of money to start with. I would argue that you should do it by audio only at first.
Okay.
Go and get a Zoom H6 or whatever the new one is. Okay, 2 microphones that plug into that recording device, and go to people and podcast them in their office if it's in business. Yeah. Go and sit down with the MD, the head marketing manager, whatever it is of a company, in a meeting room, put the H6 there, give them a microphone. Make it easy for them. Because when people know you've done 50 episodes, they're more likely to come on the show. So go out there. I'll come to you. No worries, I'll come to you. 2 p.m. on Tuesday, I'll come to you. And do it that way so that you can learn, because I didn't know what I was doing at first. No. And don't think for 1 minute you're a great interviewer, because you're not at first. You're useless. But you've got to go through that process, and you've got to learn, and you've got to be aware. So I think it's really important that you start there. So there's a young lad that came on my podcast called Finley, who's my business partner's son. He's brilliant, and he wants to be a chef.
Absolutely great episode.
He's a legend, that kid, 12 years old. What a legend. And I'm like, he is going to be a podcaster, and he's going to podcast chefs. Of all the Michelin-star restaurants here in Dubai and the new restaurants that are opening. And he's going to do it in the kitchen.
Amazing.
Not video, audio. Go in there, stick it on there. The background noise will be chopping and cutting and, saucepans clanging. Brilliant. I'm like, this is you. You're 12 years old. By the time you're 20 years old, you'll have the biggest podcast in the world.
I just find those novel ideas. It's like the guy in Dubai who does it in the car. I've seen people do it in the
yachts. Yeah, I know. I've been in the car. Yeah, I've been in the car.
You already know it. So
that's a great idea.
Great idea.
But again, it has to be valuable. It can't just be the gimmick of the car. The conversations have to be worthwhile.
Yeah. People, if you're talking about rubbish, you get caught out eventually, don't you? So the reason a lot of people are doing podcasts now is to amplify their personal brand. Personal brand has become very much a buzzword recently. There's a lot of people talking about it who, in reality, do not have a personal brand. Well, they do have one, but it's not amplified to any level. There is no doubt about it. Spencer Lodge is a personal brand. If you ask people know about the podcast, they know who you are. How have you then transitioned building that personal brand into the media businesses and things that you're doing now?
Accident. To be really honest, accident. I think I've kind of like pivoted along the way because I didn't get it. Yeah. And I think because I haven't stopped. I've done it. I'm 311 episodes in. I'm producing content every day. I haven't stopped. And although I haven't mastered it by any stretch of the imagination, I think the fact that I didn't stop enabled me to indirectly then build that. Because I was torn at the beginning. Should it be the company name? Should it be one of the company names? Should it be me? Should it not be me? It's like what should it be? But what I've learned is that if you work really hard at being really consistent at putting valuable content out there. There's a girl called Erica Kohlberg who's got about 9 million followers on TikTok. She's the TikTok lawyer, She does all these little skits that she does. And I'm like, how did you get 9 million followers on TikTok? She said it was a challenge. Someone in the office, I'm a lawyer. Someone gave me a challenge. And I'm like, what did you look at? She said, I knew that the most important thing to do after studying it was shareable content. Everything else was secondary. Make content that people share. Because if they share it, more audiences are going to see it. And she blew up on social media. And she's got a personal brand. I don't think I'm in that type of world. But what I do know is I've done it long enough now so that I can reach out to anyone and most people will say yes.
So it really is consistency, which I think is a key part of your life. Obviously, I follow you on Instagram. I don't think there's a day that goes by where we don't see that video at 5 a.m. coming down the Palm, you on the way to the gym. How do you, I mean, absolute hats off to you. How do you stay that consistent every day in life? You never miss a day, do you?
The truth is I need it.
Yeah.
I need it for my well-being.
Yeah.
I need routine. You know, you go on holiday and you put weight on because you eat at abnormal times and you're eating different things. Yeah. I need stability, and so that I would never miss the gym. You know, if my trainer wasn't there, I wouldn't go. I'd find an excuse. Yeah. But when my trainer's there, I'll never let him down. And so I get up at 4:30 and go at 5 because I'm done at 6, which means I'm home at 6:30 or whatever it may be just before then, and I can get my day organised. I go because I'm 54 years old and I don't want to be a fat slob. I go because every day because I like it. Yeah. And it's a little place that I belong. It's a little place where I say good morning to people. It's a little place where whenever I leave, I feel better than when I walked in. Yeah. And so, and I make a new video every morning. Every morning. People say to me, oh, that's the same video over and over. I swear it's not. Yeah. Every morning, I turn the phone on, I drive into the gym, I leave my street, do a U-turn, and then I hold it and I rest it on the top of my steering wheel for 21 seconds. No idea why 21, but 21 seconds. And then I do nothing. I get home. I have my second shower of the day, I have a cup of coffee, and I sit there for 10 minutes, then trying to work out what bloody thing I'm going to write, okay, as my quote for the day, and what music I'm going to play. And that takes me 10 minutes, drives me mad. And but I do that every day because people comment, people say to me, I need your video. It helps me, you know.
100%. It's inspiring seeing it every day. And I think that is something interesting about you that sets you apart, is that you've built this discipline, this routine, this structure that works for you. But when I read those quotes each day that you write, there's a very big part of you that is, I would say, it's very important to you to help other people, isn't it? The messaging is very much, you know, trying to inspire others or trying to help others or trying to improve their lives. Where does that come from?
I just want people to win. Yeah. I don't believe that there should be winners and losers. I believe that everyone has the possibility to win. Enough people choose to be losers. So I'm desperate. I see the potential in people way bigger than they see it in themselves. I look at people sometimes and I'm like, wow, what you could be, and you can't even see it. And so I want people to win. That's the most important thing. And I you know, I'll give you some good examples. Lewis Allsop's a dear friend of mine who I've known for nearly 20 years. He came to play on my football team as a kid when he was just a youngster. I love that he's winning. Yeah. I deeply love him and his brother winning. It means so much to me that what they went through in the early stages, how they set up the business, the fact that they just kept going. And Lewis isn't the sharpest tool in the box academically. He'll tell you that himself. But there was just I saw the potential in him. I'm like, he's going to be somebody, and he went to be somebody, and I love that.
And what do you think those key parts of, when you look somebody in the eye, what about them tells you that they've got the potential to be something great?
It's in their eyes. Their eyes are alive. Yeah, you can see them registering with what you're saying. They haven't worked the how-to. The mechanics almost of I want those things. I haven't got that. I haven't got these mechanics, and so part of it is then understanding that they're fearful, and then trying to get them to understand why they're fearful and to see that they're fearful of something they shouldn't be. Okay, it's like worrying about 90% of stuff you worry about is never going to impact your life. It's like having fear, so getting past that. But also when people have hope. You know, oh man, for hope and faith for me, it's just like, oh, I love it. Because sometimes people just need to be steered, or sometimes people just need to be believed. Yeah. You just need to believe in some people and let them know, okay, that what's going on in their head is real. They can be somebody. Yeah. But also sometimes you need to be able to look someone in the eye and say, why are you being a twat?
Yeah. You look at I don't think there's ever been a great person out there who's not had that one incredible cheerleader in their life. You know, for me, I've always had my mom in my corner. For someone else, it might be their wife. For someone else, it could be that you hear so many stories, don't you? A young lad going into a company and it's just, for some reason, they catch the boss's eye, and it's that mentorship, but just the belief that someone else has in you that fuels you forward.
There's nothing better than knowing that someone really, really, truly believes in you. Yeah. Okay, and champions you. Yeah. And celebrates you.
As the girls always say, someone will say your name in a room full of people, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're passionate about empowering people. Society as a whole, there are people that don't celebrate people's wins as much. where do you think that factor comes into play? Why is society like that?
Who cares?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everyone's different, aren't they? What is it they say? Your client will become your friend before your friend becomes your client. I love that line.
Very true.
Okay, I love that line. You know, there'll be people that know you, that know what you do, that will deal with another digital agency rather than you.
100%.
Okay, I said this to my dad, actually. Or everyone in my family, I look after their finances, but my dad's. And I said to him, why do you not let me look after your money? Oh, and I'm like, no, seriously, everyone in the family lets me look after their money but you. It's like, you don't trust me. I'm the person that is going to inherit whatever you've got anyway. But that aside, I'm the person that should be trusted the most.
Yeah.
Because I'm your son. People are weird because not everybody wants to see you win. Not everybody wants to see you successful. And it's not because they don't want you to be successful. It's because they don't want you to change. Because they like the person that they're with. They've got used to you. It's like, are you married?
No.
Okay, have you had a girlfriend before?
I hope so.
Okay, so you had a long-term girlfriend?
Yeah.
Okay, she's gone and got her hair done and her hair's completely different. And she walks in the door and says, what do you think of it, babe? And you're like, yeah, it's lovely. But deep inside you're like, oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that at all. It's not a nice hairstyle. It's because it's different.
Yeah.
And we don't like it. Because it's in that immediacy. We don't know. A week later, we haven't even remembered that she had a hairstyle that was different the week before. But in that moment, it's that change. And so a lot of people don't like to see people change. You know, there'll be people, take Matt Haycox. If Matt stopped wearing pink, you know, there'll be people that are like, well, hold on a minute, Matt. Just like I'm sure when he started wearing pink. Yeah. That's just that change. And so when we grow and we become better or become more successful, and there are signs of more success, that may be our community commitment, it may be our new car, it may be, you know, that actually we're not wearing the Massimo Dutti anymore, we're now wearing Hugo Boss or Dolce & Gabbana, whatever it may be. Okay, that's change, and people don't want that change. Now, after a while, it isn't change, it's just normal. And that's the bit we've got to remember, is that people don't like change. In the end, people are either going to be unhappy in the end after the change or happy for you. Yeah. The ones that are going to be, happy or unhappy. The ones that are happy for you, great. Okay, they're cheering you on in their own kind of way. The ones that are unhappy that you're doing well are not actually unhappy with you at all. No. You just showed a mirror to them.
Oh, I mean,
and they don't like that.
No.
Because no one likes it. No. So I have to have a little bit of empathy for the people, because they've got pain because you're showing to them what they're not doing themselves.
Yeah. I mean, the most crystal clear example of that, last year, I quit drinking for a year.
Okay.
I don't think there was one friendship, one relationship, one business client that wasn't affected by that, either positively or negatively.
Yeah.
Take Matt, as you just mentioned there. Mine, his relationship became a lot closer, because he loves doing activities and exercise, etc. A lot of my long-term friends, that was the mirror held up to them, because they saw what happened to my life when that was removed. And people don't like that, do they?
No, they're spot on, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but incredible. So we mentioned the podcast there. Moving on to the media. What are the plans going forward for Spencer Lodge now?
So November, we've got the launch of the TV show. We're going to be doing the premiere of it in Las Vegas during the Formula One. We then have some film festivals that it's going to. Then it will be out in the new year on television, and I'll be with Reid Hoffman at the end of the year in November anyway, just to finalise the Netflix deal. And then we'll be making more television programmes around things that I care about. Yeah. In terms of the podcast, we will probably step up from 1 episode a week to 2 episodes a week. The real trouble of Dubai is geographically for podcasts, we're not in the best place. Yeah. So we're going to have to get on a plane and go and spend plenty of time in New York, plenty of time in LA and London, picking up that content and those episodes and meeting even more people. But it's just to be more, give more, share more, learn more, and hope that we build a successful business out of doing just that.
And what a great position you said there, in your 50s, and this whole new lease life media, filming TV shows. What an incredible opportunity, because most people get into the media, they're in that from a a very young age, aren't they?
It's funny, you know, I'm 54 years old and I never thought I'd be in media. But there is deep down in all of us, there is a movie star or a singer or an actress. Deep down inside all of us.
There's the greatest showman in everyone, isn't there?
There is, isn't there? There's someone inside of us that's just like, you know, we look at someone on the stage and we go, I can never do that. But secretly we're like, but if I could, you know, and so I get great satisfaction out of being able to lean into that part of my character. You know, I'm typically extroverted. I am, you know, I'm inquisitive by nature. So when you look at it, it's like, who could I become? I'm 54 years old. You know, do I end up being Michael Parkinson or something like that? But also, I think hopefully this is a signal to other 50-year-old men. Life ain't over.
Oh, no.
I mean, I've got another 30 years of going for it, and I'm 54. So if I'm going for it until I'm 84, that's 30 years. Yeah. 30 years is 3 decades. It's a long time. And I would love to be making documentaries. I mean, who's the guy? Attenborough.
Yeah.
Well, if he can do it,
good, isn't he?
If he can do it, then why can't all of us?
I always think that's the crazy thing when you hear people going, taking early retirement, or people of my age talking about how they want to retire by 55. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? It's like that drive, that hunger, those years are for living. keep doing it.
You die. If you don't work, you die because your brain stops.
Exactly. And you see that time after time after time. People that work their whole life, they stop dead quickly.
64 years old, they die. For me, it's like, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to go and do, you know, your office job. Yeah. You know, work could be volunteering.
Yeah.
Work could be going every day. Purpose and mission. That's right. You have to find a place to belong. Yeah. You have to find a place where you feel you're valued. Okay, and you need to have purpose and mission. And if you do, most of life becomes quite sweet after then. What you do realize when you make money, though, is that it actually isn't as cool as you think it would be. It's weird, you know. I made quite a lot of money when I was young, and I thought it was super cool. And you know, I have enough money. I don't need to worry about money anymore. The only reason I want more money, okay, is to help the people that are suffering that I know. And I'm not some, you know, Florence Nightingale or any, you know, wonderful philanthropic person, but I don't want to give people money. I want to have the money to be able to help more people. Yeah. And so I want to tell more of these stories. The people that my life changed. That documentary was made, my life changed. Like in ways you couldn't imagine. I became a completely different person. My wife comes from a very wealthy family. She would expect, I don't know, to go into Chanel and buy a handbag on her birthday, let's say, or Louis Vuitton or whatever. I'll pick that handbag up and see the $6,000 price tag. And my brain, as that $6,000 price tag goes through my glasses, my brain goes 4 kids, 2 years of education plus accommodation. That's all that happens. And then I hold that and I feel ashamed. I genuinely feel ashamed. I'm like, how can I spend that money on that when I can do so much work with it? Now, beautifully, my wife has learned that I've become like that. And so she has less, not none, but less reliance on that type of stuff. And she knows that a good example is flying, a business class flight to London is like, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 quid now, and an economy maybe is £1,000. For years, I wouldn't even dream of going economy. It'd be like, no, I need to sleep. I need to go have a bed. But now, the other day where did I fly to? I flew to Geneva. In economy, because my brain went when I saw $3,000, $1,000 for economy. I'm like, I've got $2,000, and that 2,000 went across to the girls that I support. Yeah. It's what's important to you, and I'm not saying people shouldn't have the same things. You know, we all have different things that matter. But for me, just like you, your life would have changed not drinking for a year. In a way that you may have not understood, but it changed, and you came out of that going, I've become a better human.
Yeah, I mean, with an experience like that, it undoubtedly changes you. And, you know, but it's not, I don't think you necessarily know the answer straight away afterwards. No. I didn't know the answer during it. I don't know the answer now. Every day is another day towards self-discovery, because for a lot of years, I was addicted to short-term pleasure. Mm-hmm. You know, whether that was going out, whether it's doing that. And it's that, it opens up your whole mind to long-term pleasure and fulfilling your ambitions. And like you said there, helping other people, benefiting people. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, you know, with a lot of women, but also men in general, they do, those material possessions do actually bring genuine happiness to them as well, which is a strange one to see.
I've never bought a flash car and after 6 weeks remembered I bought a flash car.
No, I haven't either, but
Every time I bought something expensive, it's no longer something meaningful after a few weeks.
Yeah.
So what happens is we people on social media are demonstrating that I'm successful because I've got this and I've got that. And it's like, for me, it's like, does that make you successful? How do you measure success? Yeah, are you successful because you're eating in the best restaurants in Dubai and you've got Patek Philippe watches on? Because the most successful person I know is Maria Concia. She saved 682 children out of the slums of Bangladesh. She's the most successful person I know. She's got 11 Guinness World Records and she hasn't stopped for the last 18 years of her life trying to change the life of these kids and their mothers. No one comes close to her.
no.
Not even on in the same book, let alone the same page. It's like she is the most successful person I know. The second most successful person I know is Hannah Badi from Nepal, and she has done 642 children out of this horrible environment in the slums, and not in the slums, in this village in Nepal, where every child at the age of 8 years old becomes a prostitute for a packet of biscuits. And they can't eat unless they sell their bodies. And she just couldn't accept that. She was one of them. She ran away. She's built a school. She's built accommodation for them. She's given them a future. She's got them jobs in banks and hospitals. That's success.
100%. I mean, it's a different kind of success, isn't it, that puts it into real context. But let's turn that question around. How do you measure your success?
The more people I can help, the more successful I am, period.
And that's the bottom line on that one. Fantastic. So we're going to end a couple of quick-fire questions. What is one piece of advice you wish someone had given you earlier in your life?
Be patient. I think a lot of the time when I was younger, I made foolish decisions because I didn't have the patience to wait for what was coming my way. And so I think that a lot of people need to be patient when they're young. So if I had that again, I'd be patient. So that's one thing.
Yeah. I always love that video where it's the guy, hammering away at the rock, and you see he just turns away, and he's one blow away. Perfect. Well, Spence, it's been absolutely incredible having you on here today. I mean, it's been eye-opening, not just from the branding and podcasting side of it, but also the fantastic work you're doing to help people around the world. I'm very much looking forward to watching the TV show. Let everyone know where they'll be able to watch that, and just remind them when it's coming out.
Well, I'll make sure that when it does come out, you can share the link with your audience. It'll be on Netflix, and it's coming out in January, but we'll do the premiere. And maybe I'll share the trailer with you. You can share it with your audience as well.
100%. We'll share that. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm sure everyone else is as well. Spencer, once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for our guests for joining us today as well. Remember to follow and subscribe across whichever platforms you consume our podcast on. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you very much.